To comment during the Frankly Speaking show.
Good day. Good day. There's a great deal of discontent, confusion even, across Jamaica over the hurricane relief and restoration. At the same time, stakeholders involved in agriculture and tourism are facing the daunting task of trying to restore those industries. Today, we're talking to two people who play significant roles in those key industries. John Byles is an executive at Chococo and has been named to chair the Jamaica Tourism Recovery Task Force. He's no stranger to this sort of role, as we'll see. Keith Wedderburn is an organic farmer whose business in Bluefields, Westmoreland, is very connected to tourism and education. Our regular panelists are Desmond Richards and Winnie Anderson Brown. We thank our viewers and listeners for joining us. We invite your comments and questions during the podcast. Simply use the section on the channel, as you know. I'm Frankly McKnight, and we want to start by asking Desmond for his assessment of how the relief effort has been going post Melissa. Desmond.
Yes, good afternoon to listeners and viewers. Well, based on what I have seen and heard, this recovery process is very slow. The fundamental issues now, when I talk to people in the affected areas, in Trelawney, Westmoreland, Hanover, and St. Elizabeth, the fundamental issue right now is shelter. What is being done? What is the government's position on the shelter issue? What are the plans? Whether short term, medium or long term, what are the plans? People all over these parishes, they are faced with this, and this issue is on top of their mind right now. Yes, they are thankful for the food and the water, but people are saying to me, yes, when I eat, my belly is full, I need shelter. And so far, I have not heard or seen the state's plans to address this issue. Now, as I have said, I probably have not said it on this program, that Melissa was destructive, but it has provided us with a glorious opportunity to address land tenure in Jamaica. You have hundreds, thousands of Jamaicans right now who need land. One of the reasons why you have seen so many board houses in Hanover, Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, and Trelawney is because these people were either squatting or on rented properties. So here's the opportunity for the government to take a firm step to address this land issue. You know, my pet peeve is this, that we, black people, our forefathers worked for 500 years on this land for free. And therefore, here's an opportunity for us to get some land, right? Access to the land. And we have a black government. We don't have a colonial government. So therefore, it is now left up to the government, and this government has the opportunity to make some serious adjustment so that people can have access to the land.
Thanks, Desmond. Okay, Winnie, your quick thoughts before we go to our guests.
Oh, yes. I will wear my wellness hat when I'm answering this because it's not only the people who are in the affected areas that are affected. There are some people who are suffering from survivor's guilt. What is that? It's feeling as if you did something wrong by surviving because so many people are suffering. There are people who are crying every time they look at what is happening. They are crying. But there are a number of persons who are doing their best to help in that regard. And I really love the sacrifices that I see that people are going out doing the best that they can, not only because they feel that they need to do this to compensate for not being affected by Melissa, but because they genuinely want to help. There is a lot that is going on in a very small way. People are helping in all the ways that they can, packing the barrels, going in, giving whatever they have. Some have a lot and they give from that. Some have little and they give from that. So it also reveals how caring a number of persons are and how willing people are to help. So I look at that side of it. And I will say finally that we don't get people happy by being sad ourselves. We have to find a way to uplift ourselves and uplift others so that they can mirror our happiness. You ask, how can you be happy when you have lost everything? Look at what you have and not what you don't have. And I'm sure that as time goes by, Mr. Wedderburn will tell us how he and others around him can be happy despite losing physical things. So this is a time when we realize what is the most important thing that we have as human beings, our
Thank
connection.
you. Thanks, Winnie.
Yeah.
Okay, welcome again, Mr. Byles. Let's start by asking you, how serious has this hit been to tourism in Jamaica? How serious is it?
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me. The hit that we're having, you just need to look at the airport arrivals. The initial position we had was that we had to evacuate 25,000 people out of the island as quickly as we could, and we did that between 5 and 7 days. 25,000 people were moved out. There then had to be an assessment of hotel rooms and where was hit, etc. And we found that Negril and Ocho Rios and Port Antonio and Kingston were still in good stead. Whereas Montego Bay and going towards Trelawney were harder hit, and of course the South Coast was severely hit. So we have less rooms, but what we do see is a love for Jamaica. We're seeing our international bodies like the cruise lines. We're raising funds for Jamaica for our team members, etc. from abroad. There's a love for Jamaica, but there has been a lot of bad publicity that was out there as to Jamaica, and nobody understands that Jamaica is a bigger island than it is, and that you can
Sorry, when you say bad publicity out there, you mean the information that the country was hit hard and
That's correct.
large parts of it's almost destroyed?
Correct, and they kept showing the pictures of the hardest hit areas, and people might started to think that may be Jamaica.
Yes.
So we have to be communicating that Jamaica is the product is there, our people, which is the most incredible part of our product, are there, and we have the ability to give that world-class experience better than almost any other country, even as we are and as we recover in some areas.
But
So
is there a dichotomy? Is there something in that we were hit hard all over the West in particular, but all over the country, but hit hard, especially in the West. And we were saying that to people, and on the basis of that, people were sending us lots of aid, showing lots of love, as you have said, Mr. Byles. So is that the traveler, the potential traveler, also sees that it's not bad information, it's just explain that to us.
Yeah, I mean, you're correct, because there are areas, and it's very real, and the damage is very real to many of us. But, you know, as the minister said to us in the very beginning of setting up this task force, you know, we have to focus on the recovery, because the relief that comes has a limited time. And it's a bridge. And at the end of that bridge can't go on forever. We have got to have the recovery, because that's our livelihoods for our people, for the country, for agriculture, for every aspect that, you know, the 4.3 million people are here supporting and spending money in the country. So, you know, we have to separate, and we are communicating that not all areas are as damaged or damaged. And what's amazing is, I can tell you, what is coming out strong is a resilience and spirit of our people. It is a resilience of how nature is bouncing back, even as our rooms recover with the number of rooms coming back in. And I'll also
so what can you give us a number? Can you give us a figure, percentage as to where we are at now in coming back?
So we are looking roughly a little over 50% for the first 2 weeks in December, but we're seeing a climb. Even this weekend, I don't have the official numbers. We're starting to see a climb come back up. And the message by the guests coming to Jamaica is, you know, wow, you know, they can't believe how beautiful the place is, how, you know, what they're seeing, and the spirit of our people, and you know, the service that they're getting, etc. So you are right. There are two different statements out there, because even whilst we're doing this recovery, which is for our livelihoods, everyone involved, which is, you know, close to 300,000 people when we include our farmers and everybody else that rely on this revenue. You know, there are some areas that are going to continue to need help, to even within the hotel areas, that need help with you know, Mr. Richards was speaking earlier, with roofs and so on, but also the amount of small businesses. I mean, I am just learning how many small businesses actually provide goods within communities. They buy chickens, and they actually produce and sell the chickens right in the community at a much cheaper cost than the big operators can. You know, I had no idea of some of those economics that we're seeing. And it is critical to get many of our small and micro businesses back up at the same time, whilst we're looking at the houses as well, and you know, other ways that we are bridging that gap.
So
Franklin, I just want to say, I just want to say, I concur with what Mr. Byles is saying. I have had to send pictures to my friends in Phoenix and other sections of the US to show them that it's not only that those areas that they see that are here in Jamaica. So I have had to try to help with that too, to say that Jamaica is the largest English-speaking island in the Caribbean. So it is not just a little island that the sections you see, there are other sections. So I had to help with that. So I understand perfectly well what you're saying, Mr. Byles.
So, Mr. Byles, what is required now? What is being done now to get the country from the 50, 55, 60? What's being done now?
So there is, you know, we have a great team from the JTB that is out marketing, and they're hitting the road. Our minister, of course, is leading that. He's personally going out and doing interviews. We have people in the island that are seeing and enjoying what's here, and it's to capture that, because nothing sells better than a happy member of your peer group, and getting that message out. So it's going to be all of us approach to communicating that people can come and they can have a great time. But when you talked about the recovery, I wanted to say a couple of things, because I know we hit ourselves hard, and from a tourism perspective, within 24 hours, Kingston Airport was open. Within 72 hours, Montego Bay was open. Within 2 weeks, a cruise ship came into Ocherest, and the attractions and so on, everything was structured, and there was a collective government and private sector approach to making sure that people are going to have a good time. Within another 3 weeks, there was Montego Bay port open, and then the week after that was Falmouth. We had a day in, of course, Port Royal was hardly touched, as was Kingston, but we had a day where we had 4 cruise ships in Jamaica. Right? Now, cruise ships don't go anywhere where there's no destination experience. Those guests came off and they had an amazing time in the port, walking around, and the feedback was, we can't believe that this is all here, that we can have such a good time. So there has been a lot of work and a lot of wins, and I certainly can't take the response. They accept any credence on that. That came from a collective ecosystem, of drivers, of craft vendors, of it's government and the private sector, and we have on the committee, on the task force, different people that are parts of committees that have done a tremendous job. You just have to think, evacuation of 25,000 people within 7 days, when you have no communication, no water, no power.
Yes, Mr. Byles.
Right?
Yes, Mr. Byles, the sector is recovering. But I want to ask you a question. Before I ask you the question, Winnie, we are not as large as Guyana, Jamaica is not as large as Guyana. Yeah.
Yes, but
Mr. Byles.
an island.
Mr. Byles.
Yes, Mr. Richards.
What is the sector doing to assist those tourism workers who were affected by Hurricane Melissa?
Well, we just had a press briefing recently with a lot of the hoteliers and players, including government, that spoke to what is taking place, what funds are being raised, and how the assistance is there, which is very real when you look at the collective position between the government and the private sector. The reality is that it is not just being focused on in a real way by the players and the government, but it's also a matter of trying to get that that distribution out. I can tell you, I just spoke to somebody today, and they were telling me they can't find the workmen to do the work, and that is something that comes up. But I do want to say something. I have taken the time to go out and go through some of the hardest hit areas that have been recorded, and I see something that is, in the middle of what we've been through. It has been very heartwarming for me to see. I go through some of the communities and I see everybody in the community coming together and fixing back different houses. And so we have found that even with our workers, we're getting them zinc and ply and certain other things to just, as we said, the bridge. And they're finding that they have people within their community ready to help them. To help them fix
But
back
Mr.
as
Byles,
quickly as
there are
they
some
can.
workers who are out of their jobs now, laid off. Their facilities have been closed, are not going to be open until next year. We hear of 5 top line properties not opening until another year, November. What's being done about those workers? What's the concern or the plan?
So that is something that is being looked at right now, to identify what can be done. I mean, there's some businesses that just simply cannot, pay their workers while they have no business, and it's a very real thing. A company has to survive to be able to do what needs to be done in any sector. And the business is not there yet, but we expect a V recovery. And while that is being done, we expect that the hotels and so on that are open will start to get back to full employment and the attractions and so on. Now, there are hotels that have closed until June. I know some of them are keeping their staff employed. And then there are others that have not, and there's some that go all the way to November and December. What I can say to you is that as a country, and I'm just talking from a business perspective, if we don't do something quickly, those employees are in high demand around the world, right? There's no other community I know of that is known for the customer facing experience like Jamaicans. And I know that the cruise lines and everybody are actively wanting to look at our people. But it's a tough period for some going through that, and I know it's being looked at collectively by the industry and by the government.
Okay, and so I also wanted to ask you before we end the segment, what will success look like for the task force? You have a task force, you are chairing it. This is not new to you. You were chairman of the COVID resilience corridor. You were on that task force that was bringing back tourism. They used some unique things and they brought us back. What would success look like to you, Mr. Byles?
Success to me is the recovery of the numbers, the recovery of all of our, team members, both direct and indirect, but also not just the recovery of what was, but a recovery where we are more resilient as an industry, and that, we are prepared for shocks without the sort of fallout that we have seen in both the COVID and now. We want to see a more resilient industry that, that we can build together. And together means that we're going to have to work. It has to be a private sector and public sector collaboration. And when I say private sector, not big private sector alone, but the micro entrepreneurs, transportation providers, etc., that make up the industry. And really looking at how we can build a more resilient future, a more resilient and inclusive future going forward.
And
Mr. Byles,
my colleagues have a question, but I just want to ask you, when you look back at the COVID situation, which industry faced, let's say you were a key player in that resilience corridor, and now, which is the greater difficulty, challenge for Jamaica?
I believe that the greater challenge for the industry itself was COVID, because we couldn't see with clarity because something was happening again and again and again. The good thing if there was anything good with COVID, is that you had communication, you had power, you had light, and you had infrastructure, right? But in this crisis, we are relying now on insurance money being paid out so that you can do the rebuild of infrastructure. You have government infrastructure that has to be rebuilt, and and the hotels that have to be rebuilt, and we need to rebuild them very, very quickly. But I do believe that the demand side is coming back and coming back stronger. It will come back stronger than ever before. You're feeling a love for Jamaica from outside. That maybe because I'm here, I'm saying that, and I don't know what it's like in other countries that have been hit with crisis. But I have to tell you, the love, the support, the want to help. I mean, it is unbelievable, and it's really about how we connect that want into on the ground delivery.
And the
going
attraction
forward,
sector. Sir Desmond, go ahead. Go ahead, Desmond.
and going forward, Mr. Byles, wouldn't you say that Jamaica, we should start looking at building other income generating industries so as not to rely so heavily on tourism? Because what we are now relying on, we are relying on an industry that depends on how people travel. So wouldn't you say that we should, as going forward, that is one of the areas that we should look at? What other industry, income generating industry, that we can build? Because right now we are in a precarious situation, A lot of people not seeing this. Our two great sources of income, foreign exchange, is tourism and remittances. So would you say that? Yes.
I'm glad you asked that question, and that is a question that comes from all the intellectuals around Jamaica. But I want to say one thing about it. I certainly believe that everything should be done to look at other industries. But why would you diversify out of something that brings 4.3 million consumers here rather than us having to export it there, that are coming here and buying every day that they come at a higher rate than even our citizens, right? And on top of that, if you look at 25 years with any blow that has taken place, right, what you see is a growth pattern from 25 years ago to now. It continues because of what? Because our DNA is not just a spirit, it is hospitality. We are the most hospitable people anywhere. And people love that. Like visit, not just a lot of people that are coming, yes, because of the hotel and the destination, but they're really coming to connect with our people. Why would we give up something that has such incredible demand?
I am not saying that we must give it up enough. I am not saying that we must give it up. Yes.
But let me tell you
the other thing that we need to do.
I want to finish one point. You have this demand from 4.3 million. We're talking about targeting 5 million. What we should be talking about is how we can develop the capacity of every industry. Agriculture is doing it right now, but every other industry that can do what the industry requires, and there's a whole area being, there's a shared economy right now that's growing at a tremendous clip, right? That is developing more micro entrepreneurs than I've seen in any other industry. A lot of our transportation bus drivers are no longer just bus drivers. They're not just charging a transport fee. They are owning the customer from abroad and bringing them to
Mr. Byles. And Mr. Byles, may I say that in developing one of the things that Jamaica must do is to develop itself so that it can retain some more of the earnings. Remember that the majority of the income spent by that 4.3 billion you're talking about million is not retained in Jamaica, remember that. So in building and developing, one of the things that we should do is develop our capacity so that we can retain more of the income from tourism in Jamaica.
So, Byles, give you the last word.
Before you do that, Franklin, may I read the two comments that are here? Keith P1541 says, "Hello everyone. I understand that most of the victims in some of the most affected areas were on captured lands. Will the government help to rebuild even if it's somewhere else?" That's a question. And someone else is asking, that's Annalie. She's asking, I don't think there is 1% of board houses in St. Elizabeth. A few food for the poor houses. Majority of the houses in St. Elizabeth are sturdy wall houses that only lose their roofs. The walls are standing.
I think she was responding to Desmond talking about landlessness and capture land and the quality of houses and some of those. And Keith is asking that question which Desmond was dealing with. So,
so let's do Grace before we go.
Now we will talk about those after he leaves us.
Let's deal with Grace. Grace says, the fact is tourism is a vulnerable sector. There is income inequality that exists in tourism. Are hotel workers adequately remunerated for the hospitality that we brag about? That's Grace.
Right.
So that's a question for Mr. Byles.
Mr. Byles, that's straight in your lap, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. So, the discussion about the salaries is something that in every country can be questioned whether salaries for employees are adequate or they're not adequate. And it really comes back down to the cost of living and whether it matches the cost of living. I think.
But our inequality is well documented, though, Mr. Byles. Our inequality in income is well documented.
Yeah, I mean that's also it's something that is looked at and grappled with worldwide. It's no different in America. It's no different in many other countries. In my opinion, what we need to do is to develop more of the capacity that Mr. Richards was speaking about, to provide our people with the opportunities to participate in supplying and services to the sector, as well as how do we continue to upskill our employees whilst we grow the industry to get into the higher bracket pay scales. Those are areas that are being looked at, but I would say to Mr. Richards that I don't know if I'm not articulating myself well, but I thought that he was speaking precisely to what I was saying, in the fact that we need to develop the capacity of our companies, our manufacturers, our agriculture to go now from what is estimated at 40% retention to 60% retention, to provide even greater opportunities for our people to participate. Because once they start to do that, there's no reason why they can't start looking at exporting after that, because you build a certain level of capacity, you're producing at a certain quality level, and you start to look at all the other opportunities worldwide or even just within the Caribbean itself.
Mr. Byles, we're going to thank you before when it goes on to, but I've got to read this for you, not for you to respond, but for you also to hear from another viewer. And it's from Michael Smith. And it says, in my view, an ongoing fixation on misinformation will only hinder progress and stifle the growth of our recovery. Rather than amplifying false narratives, our focus must remain on verified facts constructive dialogue, and forward-thinking solutions that promote healing, stability, and sustainable development. And another post says, everything will not be done at once, but based on the current trajectory, we are going to recover faster than we anticipated. And that's from Michael Smith. Right. We want to thank you very much, sir. I know you've been very busy all week, and we wish you the best. You say you're not going to try to change the industry, right, Mr. Byles? Desmond is saying we need to possibly change it a little bit, but you say you're not changing it.
No, I didn't say we're not going to change the industry.
Okay, all right.
I mean, we need to reimagine and reset. Every crisis an opportunity to relook and see where we can go.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, sir, and have a good evening on behalf of all of us.
A nice evening, everyone here. Thank you.
That's John Byles, who gave us a bit of his time. He's a man in charge of tourism recovery in Jamaica. There's a committee responsible for that, and he's head at one of the attractions, and he has lots of experience dealing with these things, having been on the similar task force when we had COVID. We're going to go over. Winnie, would you like to take that other comment before we go over?
Let
Mr.
me see
Keith Wedderburn, who has been here patiently waiting on us to take on agriculture.
Okay.
Go ahead, Winnie.
There goes. Yeah, I'm bringing it up. Yeah, what do we have in place to prepare our people more to manage crisis? To manage crisis. Let's stop there.
Yeah,
that's
he's asking about managing crisis and what do we have. And having spoken to Mr. Wedderburn, I think that also comes in his area because he believes that leadership is very important at this point. Mr. Wedderburn, welcome, sir. And just to remind those who are just joining us that you are into organic farming, you are in Bluefields, you are into education, you are into tours by locals and tourists. And tell us a little bit about that you do. Just a little bit, Mr. Wedderburn.
First of all, thank you for having me. In terms of what we do, so we operate the Bluefields Organic Farm, which is a 13-year-old organization. And we focus mainly on fruits. We have over 60 different fruits. So we do tours, and tours mainly.
Over what, 16? 16?
Over 60 different fruits.
60?
Over 60 different fruits. And so we have educational tours for various age groups from kindergarten to universities. And the persons normally on a regular tour, they would get a chance to visit the farm, take a tour, learn about the nutritional value, learn about the educational value, and most of all to sample the fruits being offered. But separate from that, overall what we offer is an experience in terms of healthy lifestyle. So we offer massage services. We also have rooms for persons who want to stay on the farm. And persons coming also want to do like a retreat and those things. So that's what the farm is all about. It's all about healthy lifestyle.
So you have a full-flowing business. But what's happening now after the hurricane? How did the farm survive? And I gather you are one of those who sent out one of the first videos from Jamaica.
Exactly. Well, in terms of, let me just say to you, like many others in our areas, we were severely affected. Starting with in terms of our solar panels were damaged, over 36. And then our farmhouses, our shade houses, our fruit trees, a lot of them were down. But let me just, I think I might be coming from an unfair advantage in that 30 years ago, we were pretty much in this situation where 30 years ago I was homeless. And because 30 years ago I was homeless and I had to reinvent my life, I think I might be far more prepared than most persons. And that was one of the reasons why when this hurricane hit, we jumped out of the block immediately. 2 hours after the hurricane, we sent out the first message to the world. So while a lot of persons were still thinking, did a hurricane just hit? What really happened? We were there, we sent out the first message to the world. And at that time, the world was hungry for information. Because guess what? All of the major lines were down. No matter of fact, some are still down. Power was down, but because we had backup supplies, we were able, and we had Starlink, and so we were able to send out the first communication. Leading from that, what we have been doing since then is a recovery process. So we have been spearheading the recovery, not just for the farm, but for the area. And I tell you that, for example, since November 3 to today, we have hosted over 8 different groups who mission, and I'm talking about mission groups. Every week we host a mission groups right here at the farm because we have everything in place. We have replaced our solar panels within 9 days. They were up. 9 days they were replaced, and so we have power. We have we have internet connectivity, and we didn't lose our roof because they are slab roofs, and so we're here being able to host mission groups. And these mission groups, when they come, they go out in the community.
So
And
what you're saying is that the rest of us were really not as prepared, or the rest of people, even in your area, were not as prepared
well,
as you were.
yes, yeah. I say we're at an advance. I say having been there 30 years ago, we have learned our lesson, and so we were deeply prepared. And so even before this hurricane hit, we were doing some preparation. But let the truth be told, the magnitude of this hurricane was far beyond our preparation. But notwithstanding the level of preparation that we did in terms of our backup supply, those sort of things, our reserves, we were able to host groups. We were able to, matter of fact, even soup kitchen. We were within by November 3, we were operating one of the first soup kitchens. We were able to provide, along with groups like Source Farms, and those other groups. They came here. We were going out to the community providing soups and porridge and things like that. Long before everybody else even reached Westmoreland, we were doing that.
Yeah.
But the
Winnie, I want to take some comments on that because I want to before I ask Mr. Wedderburn to follow up on this. To tell us a little bit, Mr. Wedderburn, about what are the benefits that you see coming to farmers in the area now? Because you must be, you're not isolated. You're a community man. We are told what's happening to the farmers now as they should be trying to recover. But Winnie, you go ahead and take some comments, and we welcome your comments.
Okay, this is really from Annalie, if I'm seeing well. We are to look into building gabion baskets to protect the shorelines, and so doing we protect lives and buildings. Example from that Paroti Point
Parati,
to,
Parati
yes,
Point to
Paroti
Luana in
Point
St.
to
Elizabeth.
Luana Point. Yes,
In St. Elizabeth.
yes. And there's a commendation, very commendable, Mr. Wedderburn. That's proactive farming and strategic business planning. And before you go, Franklin, I want to ask if Berry last year helped in the preparation for this year with Melissa.
Mr.
Yes,
Wedderburn, that's for you.
good.
yes,
So you're asking if burial did help. Well, the truth is, yes.
yes,
If the fact be told, we had gone through several hurricanes, Beryl, Ivan,
yes.
Sandy, you name it, we have been there. And so every successive hurricane, we try to learn from it and prepare ourselves. And
Okay.
so burial did help. But let me just say, and one of the questions you also asked about the farmers and the support received. And let me just say, separate and apart from the Gen Z and Jome group, along with Source Farm, they have been pivotal from day one. They have been here on the ground, but their help is mainly to organic farmers like myself, and they extend themselves where possible. But in terms of other farmers and the support being received, I I want to say it's not happening. I have personally visited the RADA office in Sab, for example, and they themselves is damaged, and made a report of what had happened in the community and so forth. They had promised to visit, and based on the report I'm getting from all the farmers all around, nothing is happening. So it's very sad. And for farmers, a lot of the farmers, as you know, a lot of the farmers don't have insurance. And so they have to pick up the pieces and do all this together. All this on their own. I said together. Well, all this on their own. And so it's very, very challenging at this time. But most importantly, and this is one of the challenging things that I think we need to put our finger on right now. In terms of food security, there is going to be a huge challenge because what we're getting.
Say that again for us, Mr. Wedderburn. And explain to me what you mean by food security, because it's a nice phrase, but you don't
in terms of food security, we're going to have a great challenge. And when we talk about food security, we're talking about being able to feed ourselves on a consistent basis and with quality food. We are going to have a severe challenge. Because when you look at it, St. Elizabeth was affected. A small part of Manchester was affected. Westmoreland, St. Anne's was affected. Trelawney was affected.
Manchester.
Manchester. All of these parishes that we're speaking about contribute significantly to the food being placed on the table, contribute significantly to the food being sold to the hotels, contribute significantly to the food used just about restaurants. The question is, with all the trees being down and with all the trees being down, the vegetables being out, where is the food going to come from? At what price? At what quality will this be the person? So one of the things that we're saying to persons, and so quickly, and that's why as part of the Bluefields Organic Farm, one of the things that we have been doing very, very, very from day one is getting back out there. We've been putting up some of our trees, so we realize an average tree can take from 3 to 10 years to bear, depending on the type of tree. And then like vegetables and cash crops will come quicker. But the truth is, we have been out there and we have been putting up some trees because we realize that very soon, very, very soon, there won't be anything left in the market. And one of the things that we did today, and I can say today has been one of my brightest days. One of my brightest days since the hurricane hit. And if you ask me why, let me tell you why. Today we had 12 local persons came in for our workshop right here at the Bluefields Organic Farm. And this was conducted along by, well, I was here, we facilitated, we had Joan, we had Gen Z, we had Source Farm, and persons were taught or reminded of how to take care of seeds and things like that. The demonstrations were done. They were given seeds.
Your farm organized that, Mr. Whatever.
Repeat?
Your farm organized that?
Yes, my farm organized that. Today, just this morning, between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock, that's what we were doing right here at the Bluefields Organic Farm. And so today is one of my brightest days since the hurricane. Because guess what happened? I realized that within the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks from now, people within the area will begin to start produce for themselves. But not only that, one of the challenge given to these persons is to now go out and share the knowledge with other persons. And once they do that, rest assured we will be leading the process. And I promise them also that if they follow up with the program, what we will do is to go out and also facilitate other plants like fruit trees, because all of the fruit trees that the grandfather and grandma and uncle planted are now down. Where are they going to get the ackee from tomorrow? Where are they going to get the mango from tomorrow? Because a lot of people don't realize. And remember,
big questions for the Ministry of Agriculture, you know, Mr. Wedderburn. Yes. But I want to ask you again, and you're posing some really important questions there. But I want to ask you, I've been talking to some people in agriculture in recent days, and they're saying that by now, because we're 7 weeks on from the hurricane, many of the vegetables should have been coming back if we were going right to the farmers right afterwards. Lettuce, I get a lettuce, it's coming back well. Cabbage, pak choy, okra, and so on. They said that those should be coming back now. What is the situation down your side of the world? Not on your farm, because obviously you are more progressive and organized and all of that. But what's the situation in your area with those vegetables?
Yes. I'm not happy to say that I'm not seeing anything significantly happening. Separate from the farmers taking the mantle on their own, I'm not saying that is very, very disappointing. Very, very disappointing. and
Franklin,
you said that we could have things between now. This morning, the callaloo that we use at our home was produced right here at the farm, and those callaloo were callaloo that was grown since the hurricane. So you're correct by saying if there were a more direct approach, we would have had vegetable, we would have something to be harvesting since the hurricane. It's possible because we reaped callaloo this morning.
Franklin,
Yes, Desmond, go ahead.
Franklin. One of the things that that the pace at which the state is approaching the rebuilding process, and that includes, as we spoke about earlier, about providing roof shelter. The pace at which they are producing appear is the same pace at which they are approaching agriculture. When you talk to the farmers in St. Elizabeth, they too, they are behind. They are not getting the assistance that we hear being spoken about. They are not getting that. So the entire process is a slow one.
Well, Mr. Wedderburn, I just going to read another comment that I got here, and I see Winnie can take on those comments from West McLean, but I just got this one. Mr. Wedderburn is proactive and realistic, as opposed to Mr. Byles, who seemed to sugarcoat most things. Very impressed with Mr. Wedderburn's comments. But Mr. Wedderburn, before Winnie takes up those other comments there, wanted to ask you again, and people know where you are. You're a community leader. What you've been doing has been successful. When something like this happens, are you called? Are other major farmers that you know around the area called? And you have a small team, 3, 4, 5, 6 people, who say to the ministry or to RADA or to whoever, these things are necessary to get started. How do you get involved? That's what I'm trying to find out. It can't be people at Hope in Kingston. How do you get involved?
Well, there are farming groups right here, and so we collaborate. And separate from that, as I said to you, the Jamaican organic farming movement, they kudos to them. They were the ones who took themselves all the way from Kingston and has been here actually every week. They have been doing that. And so the other ministries can take a page out of the book of Jamaica Organic Farming. They need to take a page from their book.
So have you seen, I'm not just in by direct, have you seen the RADA people with these?
No,
anybody from Hope?
we haven't seen, we haven't heard from them, nothing at all.
Well, that's the same thing coming from other areas, so I'm sad to say.
It's very, 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 very sad. But let me just say this anyhow. And this situation merits leadership. And leadership from all angles, not just from government, but also from local persons. Because let me just say this to you. What I realize that very often we like to roll over and play the role of victim. Based on my experience, I always say to myself, I don't want to be a victim, I want to be a victor. And because I set up that, because wherever there are challenges, there are also opportunities. And so we need to program ourselves to see the opportunities and be leading from the front. And if there's a time where leadership is important, I'm not talking about positive and good, it is right now. And so on the ground, bottom, middle, leadership is critical right now. And there are so many persons who are feeling hopeless, wondering which direction to go. And therefore, you need persons who will come out of the block and demonstrate that it's possible. It is challenging, very, extremely, but it's possible. And I do hope that more persons will having seen what we have done, having seen what Joan has done, and what we have done with little, will just be motivated and be encouraged and want to get on board. I do hope.
So in the organic farming now, where do most of your products go, and most of the organic farmers in Jamaica, Mr. Wedderburn, where do most of your products go?
Well, in terms of for me and my farm, remember as I said to you from day one, my farm is sort of different from most of the other farms. Most of my products, for example, go to farm to table experiences. I do not have enough produce to sell to the various tourism entities and the various persons that call me all over Jamaica and worldwide. I do not have the produce because my farm is just 230 acres and I do not have the numbers. So what I do, I specialize in the educational aspect of it. So I'm into agro-tourism. But as for the other farmers, what I see, they sell their things mainly to the local markets, and where they have to collaborate and get it out to bigger markets, they do. So I'm a little bit separate from them because I said I am more about agro-tourism. It's about everything that we produce. It can be utilized right here in the farm.
Okay. And we're going to ask you to mention for us again before we finish the program. When we're nearing the end, Winnie's going to read up one or two more comments. To how people can get out to you, because you do have a full agro-tourism entity out there. Winnie?
Yes, back to Grace again. Grace says there seems to be local private leadership in agriculture, which should be broad-based, as it is leadership is found wanting at various levels.
Yeah. You know, Desmond, we were speaking about at the start, before the program, you and I were speaking about what's happening in the recovery. And we got a question earlier from Keith P about what's to happen to the people who are not on land that is their own. How do you think this can be carried out? Because as we were saying, there are not enough people speaking up, to see Mr. Wedderburn, not just on agriculture. There are issues that people are having, but it's not coming through. People are not, the ideas that, I don't see, it just seems to be sort of a log jam. And people privately are saying, well, it's not working, something bad's going to happen. Desmond, respond for me.
Sorry, and while you respond, Desmond, this question that came up from Keith P. Relative to that, I understand that most of the victims in some of the most affected areas are on captured lands. Will the government have to rebuild, or even if it is somewhere else? So while you are responding, you may give your view on that as well.
The government, as I said before, Melissa has presented the government with a glorious opportunity to initiate a serious land reform program. That is what is needed right now, because you cannot rebuild homes on captured land. So that is a priority.
Yes, Desmond, but the people who have lost their houses, what they're going to do? What the people who have lost their houses, what's to happen to them? They just stay in the friend yard for the moment. The people who have lost their roof all over the country, that is a reality, you know. And when I say all over the country, in those particular, especially in the western area, in St. Anne, southern as well, in Trelawney.
Well, remember now, if you are on your own land, then what is required is some aid to assist in rebuilding, right? Now, those people who don't have their own lands, one of the things that I am looking at is what kind of temporary arrangement is going to be made in order to provide them with some temporary shelter while the government put in place the land acquisition program, right?
I don't know where that's going to come from. I honestly don't know. But all I know is that people who have lost their houses, people who have lost roofs, people who have lost parts of it, have had damage, out a door, gone next door, gone to another family, they are still waiting. And it's not clear. What is happening to those people.
One of the things, you know.
Quickly, Desmond.
yes, one of the things is that the people themselves is, have to unite. For example, we at Rebel Radio, one of the things that we are planning to do, we are planning to collect a petition, launch a petition with people and have them to sign and for submission to the relevant authorities about this land reform program.
Okay. Just I'm going to read these quick comments because I can catch them faster. Why is Keith Wedderburn so small and yet he has high demand? I thought about that question too. That's a question coming from Owen Richards. And Leroy says, excellent point, Keith. As we are moving to the next era, leadership is something we need to explore at the local and national level. So Wedderburn, tell us where people can reach you. Just tell us quickly before we wrap up.
Well, okay. One of the comment that somebody raised, and let me just say, one of the things that I learned and I stick to is that there can be no resistance against a product or service that meets the public per se need. And therefore, very often we're doing things, but we're not thinking about how well are we serving the public. Or are we
Mr. Wedderburn, we're going to have to call you back, bring you back and talk about that because we have lots of issues that we've run out of time. I want to thank Keith Wedderburn, Organic Farmer, is an author, is a community builder. I want to thank John Byles, Tourism Executive and Chair of the Tourism Restoration Task Force. As always, thanks to Winnie Anderson Brown and Desmond Richards, producer, graphic artist, Joshua Black. I'm Franklin McKnight, and reminding you that you can watch this podcast again anytime. Please subscribe anytime on YouTube. I'm Franklin McKnight. Until then.